Welcome to Spark Stories, where entrepreneurs and experts share their brand story and how they found their spark, the spark that started it all.
Hi, welcome to Spark Stories. This is Clarissa, and I'm your host for today. And in the studio, we have Miss Nicole Mitchell with HR Biz. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks. How are you?
All right. We also have Miss Ebony Johnson in the studio with us. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
Good. It is the first day of July, the second half of the year. You guys got some new goals set up?
I do.
Oh, share. I love goal setting.
So one of my goals is that doing things like this, I'm going to get myself out there. I'm very logical and technical, but the creative side isn't always my strong suit. So my goal is to push out more of that in the half of the year.
Half of the year. So you're going to be more creative.
Yes.
So you're going to start, does that include social media or any other exciting things?
It does. Social media, especially making sure that I'm posting consistently and using this kind of platform and opportunity to really get myself out there. People understand what I do, not just that it's HR stuff going on.
Just not HR. So what's going on in the world of HR?
Oh, lots always going on. The big things that everybody knows about, the Me Too movement, harassment, even just the gig economy, as they said, a lot of people like us being consultants and freelancers. So understanding what's going on and how that applies, especially to small businesses.
Oh, that's really important because a lot of, like I said, the headlines are buzzing with the Me Too hashtag or the buzzword. So how does that really apply to small businesses? Most people think it only affects the big organizations.
Right. Which is the misconception about a lot of things that happen in HR. And it especially applies because you have closer relationships in the small business world. Mm-hmm. So people get a little comfortable, and it's not until somebody says, okay, well, yes, I have a problem with that. And again, from my perspective, there's not always an avenue or a forum to get that addressed. So it's the owner talking to the very close friend or someone, and not really a process or a procedure. And how do I go about investigating this and making sure I'm treating it appropriately and taking good action, because that person may decide they're going to go outside the business to get their resolution.
Wow. So we jump right into things. Why don't you tell us who you are as a company so you can guide us through those HR policies?
Sure. So HR Biz is a consulting company for small to medium-sized businesses. And what we do is provide that service that usually, as you said, used to in the big companies having an HR department. But as a small business owner, you either can't afford to put that whole staff out there, or you don't need to have someone doing that. So what we do is provide very custom solutions depending on what you need. It may just be a handbook to get policies set up, or literally having an HR person by your side. So we customize, sit down, what do you need? Where are you in your business? And then decide what are the things that are going to be most beneficial. But people think of, HR as payroll and, maybe benefits if you were a bigger company, but there are a lot of things that you still have to do aside from getting a payroll company, getting a lawyer, and, off you go with your business.
So would you recommend a small startup that maybe has 1 to 2 persons in their office or in their space to use you as a service, or would we need 3 or 4 employees?
No, we can start as small as 2 employees is really the benchmark, only when people are looking to offer benefits, which sometimes doesn't come until later because companies will require to have at least 2 employees. But just the basics of having 2, 4, 5, you still have all of those requisite things to put in place. So it's not really the size of the company, more of the needs, especially if you have customer service or things going back and forth with other businesses as well.
Okay. What type of, I know you spoke of being efficient and being customer centered. So how are you working as a consultant? Are you working in the practice with them, or they're coming to you, or is more over the telephone?
All of the above.
Okay.
So the beauty of HR, again, it can be very virtual. We can do consultation, Zoom meetings, or, other opportunities where we need to just have some conversation about documents. At other times, like I said, I can be the side-to-side partner and actually come and sit in the office. Uncomfortable conversations. Sometimes owners want to just be one step removed from it. So I may be the bad guy, come in and say, okay, let's sit down. Let's have a performance conversation. Or the other side of it is that, do a training for the employees. So when you want to roll something out that's new or something that's changing in policies, have somebody who understands how to deliver it and, sit right there with them and get an opportunity to ask questions.
Okay. So helping us bring us up to speed and making sure that we're compliant. What type of compliance issues or concerns should we start looking at when we're starting up?
One of the things that's key, and I think I've mentioned it before, is payroll. And when it comes to classifying employees, people don't usually understand when should I have somebody who's a contractor and when do I have to have them as a W-2 employee. So again, people say payroll, okay, I'll get a company, everybody will get paid, on a certain date or a certain number of weeks, but managing those things, are you supposed to pay overtime? I've had a client who said, that overtime thing. And I was like, well, it's not really a thing. It's a law. You have to, you have to do what it is, but understanding how to go about doing that and setting those things up from the very beginning. And you want to be efficient because you don't have to keep doing it over again. Once you set it, this is my classification. These people are hourly. These people can be salaried, and then let it run its course. Because you want to focus on your business, not on how to get something in every 2 weeks or, twice a month.
Understood. I know as an entrepreneur, I do more than 40 hours a week.
Absolutely.
So it's always been one of my questions. If you have an employee and they're doing less than 40 hours, you do not have to give benefits. Is that true?
That's depends on the situation kind of question. Okay. So you can set as a company what your benefits policy is going to be. You can say people over 30 hours are eligible for benefits or over 40. And as long as you're consistent with that, then when the person comes in, they know what they're eligible for. So if they're less than 40 hours, you could still, from a owner perspective, say, well, if they're 30 and above, because they're almost full time, quote unquote, then you want to offer it to them. Now, the IRS, on the other hand, with the whole Affordable Care Act, will say how many full-time employees do you have or full-time equivalents, and that will make some benefits, eligibility. But as the owner, it's up to you when you decide when you want to start offering them.
Wow, this is a lot of knowledge. How many years have you been in the business?
I've actually been in HR a little over 15 years, and with different varieties of companies, private industry, retail, which is a challenge unto itself, and as well as government contracting.
Government contracting. So I guess all of that does definitely play their own, it's their own industries, their own niche. So when you're working with the varied groups, how do you bring all of that skill set into practice into the individualized niches?
And so that really comes back to the amount of work that needs to be done and what type of services that they may need. So especially, as I said, retail is a land unto itself where there's a lot of scheduling and is the person, working in their capacity, where you have other private industries. So I've worked in healthcare, and I was a corporate employee for a long period of time. So that itself brings in the, what do you do as far as patient information, and then people managing IT and all of those things. So bringing the knowledge of, you have to have a basic knowledge of the legal parts, the representation, the regulation, all of that, but then understanding what the culture is and what the needs of that industry might be.
Okay. So what made you go down the path of HR?
Well, it's interesting. HR is actually my second career. I used to work in healthcare. I have a degree in biology, and I used to do genetic testing. And so people go, how did you go from a lab rat to to being in HR? And it was kind of an evolution. I saw myself going into hospital administration and then ended up more on the HR side. But it's to me, it's kind of the same logical problem solving. You have to understand what's going on. What solution do you apply to it? But I enjoy the interacting with people as much as, just doing the technical work I did in laboratories.
So that's a lot of the journey of an entrepreneur. You start in one field, and then you go to something totally different and unexpected.
Yes.
And so the trajectory is always changing. What are words of wisdom or advice that would you give to someone who's just starting out for a small business and maybe have a career shift?
I think one of the key things is really to understand what your skill set is and what your talents are. And for me, like I said, it was a kind of logical transition, even though it was a completely different field. I didn't go, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't go from something logical to something creative, saying, okay, now I'm going to, suddenly be able to come up with these visions, but understanding what your talents and your skills are, and then using that to apply, because that's the only way that you're going to be successful. And you're going to be passionate about it because it's what you enjoy doing. You don't feel uncomfortable, in the different settings.
Right. Now, for a lot of people who are starting out, and even if it's just human resources, the term, when I was first starting out, was generalist. Has that shifted any? And is it more specialized now with a niche focus?
It depends on the size of the company. So the generalist is a great background because you do, and as I did, get to learn all of the different phases of it. Benefits administration, payroll, employee relations, all of those different things. But the shift has really been in being strategic. So there's a title now is HR business partner that can vary anywhere. Sometimes it's applied kind of loosely. So people want to, make it a sound better than it might be. It still may be a generalist, but they're looking for at the higher levels to have some strategic planning and being able to understand where the company is going as opposed to just doing the day-to-day tasks. So the need for a generalist is still definitely out there. But as you move up into the different levels, it's looking for a type of specification.
Okay. So what is the trajectory of a human resource specialist?
Really depends on the interest that the person has. Is that people get into the benefit side of it and they are benefits administration, and we'll continue on that path all the way from a generalist, HR manager, HR director, to being a VP. Goes, all the way up the chain to what level you want to be involved in with the people. Okay. So generalist is going to be very much more day to day. As you get to a chief human resources officer or a VP, then you're going to be more on the strategy and the policy side. Again, usually with the larger companies, but the opportunity is there to kind of find your niche. Compensation, payroll, transformation is a big thing now where companies are looking to change the culture and have someone to kind of lead that whole charge.
All right. So I guess as you've journeyed along as the generalist up into the director and now going back into a consulting world, you're working one-on-one with clients. Right. What reward does that bring you?
For me, that's really the satisfaction of seeing that this move that we made and the things that we put in place help that person with their success. It's not just shuffling the paperwork or kind of giving an idea and seeing where it goes. Literally, we've hired someone for the company to move it forward, or we've put policies in place that are going to make sure that you're in a better place. The next time you have to do something. It's streamlined it. It's given you some freedom, gave you some time back. Because people go into their business for what their passion is about, not about the back end or the office things that you end up doing instead.
Sure. So you have to share with us like one of those compelling stories, something where you really felt or saw immediate impact. Do you have one that comes to mind?
I do actually. I have a client who she is an owner of the business, but not necessarily in the industry herself. Okay. So it's been part of a challenge of saying, okay, I almost have to learn it as I go along. And so what I was able to do is just sit down with her, and there were resources that she didn't know that existed. So she's looking, I needed to get an intern, she didn't even say an intern. I need to get somebody who's going to be able to help me do some of this stuff. And there happened to be a county program that was available. It didn't cost her anything. We connected. And because I could kind of speak the language of what it is exactly that she needed, we were able to connect with them, get someone lined up, and get her essentially free help to get some of that work. And she literally, okay, this is great. Now we can move on to the next thing. And we're recruiting for her company. Same thing. Here's where we can advertise. So just being able to see and understand that, she has somebody literally sitting and doing the work that she needs to get done, and move on to the next phase of what her company needs to do. So definitely rewarding.
That's a great story. Great story. And I'm pretty sure, like you said, her being able to have that partnership.
Right.
The collaboration within the community and being able to strategize so that she can recruit and continue to build her business.
Exactly.
So I can sense the reward as well.
Yes. It's a good feel.
That is a really good thing. Do you have any major events that are coming up? How can we connect with you?
So, my website is www.hrbizgroup.com. I'm on social media, HR Biz ATL, and also my Facebook page. So I don't have any major events coming up, but I do like to participate. We do volunteer opportunities there's NAAA HR is the organization that I belong to. And again, just the opportunity to help people who are looking for jobs or get situated in their career development. Okay. So try to participate in different things in the community in the area.
Very good. Well, I want to say thank you for sharing who you are, what you do, and why it matters. We're so excited to connect you to the She Sparks and the Spark Stories community. And again, so tell us again how we can find you and leave us with a little spark.
Okay. You can find me. The website is www.hrbizgroup.com, HR Biz ATL, and also my Facebook page. And the spark I would leave is just to do that. Follow your passion and understand what is it that you're good at and accept help where you need it. Finding a great resource is the best way to keep the business going.
Thank you for listening to Spark Stories. If you're looking for more help in gaining focus, come check out our website where you can find episode show notes, browse our archives, and access free resources like worksheets, trainings, events, and more. It's all at www.shesparks.com.